So today I'm going to have a look at the Scratch Junior app, which has the little icon of a cat. So I click on that and it opens up on the screen, and sometimes when you first open it up, it'll ask you whether you're using it at home or at school. Once you've done that the first time, you'll get the screen. You can see a lot of the previous projects that I've been working on, but you'll probably have that blank and you'll just have the plus sign. So if we click the plus sign, that opens up the new project. When it starts off, you have a rectangle in the middle, which is the stage, and you have your first character, your sprite, and in this case it is Scratch the cat. The program is of course named after him. You can use your finger on an iPad to drag the cat to where you want him to be. If you're on a Chromebook, you'll need to use your mouse to click and drag. We can also insert background up the top. In the center there's a little picture. If you click that, it brings up backgrounds and you can choose one that you want. So you tap on it and then click up in the top right, click the tick. Okay, so now we have a sprite and a background. To make my sprite move, I'll need to use some little coding blocks. Now, if you look in the bottom third of the screen, there's a white panel and there's a little outline drawing of Scratch. Now, that tells me that any coding blocks that I use here will apply to that sprite and that one only. So above the cat, you can see there are 6 menu buttons, and currently the blue menu button has been pressed. This opens up the movement blocks. So if I take that first movement block and drag it down onto the white strip at the bottom, this tells me, as you can see, that he's going to move in the move to the right, and in this case just one step. And if I tap on the block, you'll see how far that is. Okay, I'll pop him back. So you can see that it has a 1, and if I want to change that, if I click on the 1, then I can change it with the little keypad that pops up. So for example, I might put in 8 steps. If I want to drag down another one, so I want to go in the opposite direction, I just drag down the move left block. And again, it's got a 1, so if I want it to be 8, I just tap the number again and pop in 8. At the moment, these are 2 separate blocks, so if I click the 8, if I want to get to go back, I need to click the other button. Okay, but you'll also see that these are like little jigsaw pieces, and they will snap into each other. When you put them close together, they will snap together. So now if I press the first button, both blocks of code will run. As I'm doing that, you'll notice that they turn a darker colour as the code is running, which can be quite useful later on if you make a mistake and you're trying to figure out where in the code the mistake is occurring. Of course, we've got some other buttons here. We've got an up and a down, and again, tap on the number if we want to change that. And here we go, forward, back, up and down. And we have a little turn button. Now, in order to make this turn in a full circle, I need to put in 12. So I click on the 1 and I pop in 12, and he'll now turn in a full circle. and back to where he was. I could put in smaller numbers if I only want him to do part turns. So I can pop that one in. If I want him to go the other way, I could use the anti-clockwise turn button. If you don't want a block, so I've dragged this block down, I don't want it. So all I do is basically flick it or drag it back past the all the other code blocks. So flicking it up and it will disappear. Next button there is a jump button. So it's set to 2 spaces. If I want a higher jump, I click on it and let's go for a 4 jump, and I'll just show you how high that is. Okay, and snap that in. So now if I press the first block of code, it'll do all of the run all of the code one after another. The last arrow that you can see there has a little turn arrow and a little cross. If I bring that down, that is the return to home button. So, for example, if your character was not going forward and back and was only going forward, but then you want it for some reason later on to go back to where it started, you would use this button. In order to do that though, you first have to set where home is. So place your character where you want it to have as its little home base, its little start. And up beside the flag you can see a blue circle which also has the arrow and the cross. So tap that and that sets the home place for that particular character. So now if I use the go right button and I put the go home button next to it, and then I'm going to tap the left button, it goes out 8 steps and then it goes straight back to home again. So if I had put, for example, the go right and the up one, and goes right, jumps up, and then straight back to home again. It can be useful sometimes when you're wanting to restart something. You might want to put the go home button in at the beginning of your code so that it always returns to the start position. So at the moment, I've just been tapping on the blocks to make the code start, but we may want to do this in a more efficient manner. So if you look at the 6 little coloured menu buttons, the first one is a yellow button, and if I press that, then I get some options. Now we're going to look at the first 2 today. So the first one is the green flag. So this is quite a common one, and it is useful if we want several bits of code to work at the same time. So if we had a whole lot of different characters and we wanted them all to start moving at the same time, for example, or we want something to happen right away at the beginning without having to do anything. So the green flag at the top of the screen over towards the right hand side is the one that you would use to start your program working. In this case, if I push this green flag now, so I'm pushing the one up the top, this one here. Okay, so you can see how it then runs the code. If I used a different starter block, and you can see that they are starter blocks because of their little rounded ends, so they don't have a jigsaw piece that fits into the front of them. So to change that start block, I need to click on the second block along, and that will remove all of the code from that direction. Okay, so I can just pop that over to one side for the moment. So now I can look at the second code block in the menu panel, which has finger tapping a character, and I'm going to drag that down and snap that in. If I push my green flag up the top here now, basically nothing's happening. I have to tap the character in order to make it do something. So if I come down and I tap scratch, you can see now the code starts. Okay. Now that one can be very useful if we want to give instructions to someone in the game. So we might have some instructions where it says tap the character to see if you are right, or tap the character to do something. The other ones are a bit more advanced and we can use them later. In addition to using movement blocks, you can also add text or sound to your little creation. So the purple menu blocks include a little speech bubble. So I'm going to drag that little speech bubble down and just click it on there. It defaults to say hi. So if I take that out and just click it, you'll see a little speech bubble pops up with hi. However, I can change that. So if I just backspace what is there, I can add whatever text I want to have. It does pay to break up text into smaller blocks, so don't try putting too much in one speech bubble. There's a limited time that it stays on the screen, and if you put too much, then no one will be able to read it in time before it disappears. So break it up, 1 or 2 sentences at the most. Probably only one is better, and just add more speech bubbles if you need them. So that's one way of adding text. There is another way, and in the green menu button, which is the sound, you can there put in a sound. In this case, it's a little pop sound, but there is a microphone. And if you tap on the microphone, then push the red button, it is now recording what you are saying. When you've finished, push the tick, and you'll notice now there's another little block that's popped up here. In this case, it has a 1. If you make subsequent ones, they'll be numbered. So I can drag that 1 down onto here. I'm just going to separate out those 2. So we're going to get a hi. And if I tap that, it will then play the sound that you've recorded. You won't hear it because it's playing through my computer rather than through the recording. So I can then add that into my code. Well, in this case, I'm just going to delete it. Another way to add text, up the top center, there is an ABC button, and if I tap on that, I can write a sentence. So this is better if I'm wanting to put longer amounts of text, especially if you want students using this program to write a story. So we just type in. Now, there is one thing to note. When you get to the end of the line, it won't automatically go onto a new line. So you'll have to stop and create a new line in order to carry on the story. However, if you click on the 3 A's, you can then make your text smaller if you wish to. And then you're able to fit in more. If you carried on past the end of the line, then the other text would just not be visible. You won't be able to see it on the screen. You can change the colour of the text. So using the paint bucket, you can choose a colour there, so that you can choose a colour that's going to stand out really well against your background, which is not that colour. I think I might just go back to black, and then I can put that into a place where it is going to show up. Obviously, if you're going to use a lot of text, it pays to choose a background that is suitable for that. So, for instance, if I chose one that had a bit more plain background near the top, or something with blue sky, it is also possible to use your editing tool on your background to make okay, so if I'm adding another sentence, then I'm clicking on that again and just typing again, and again I can tap on the A's to make it smaller, and I can change the colour of the sentence, because I think that this one would stand out better against the green. So quite a nice little way to add some text to your story, and you can also have the rest of the story, the action, carrying on at the same time. The other thing you might need to do is to add different characters. So over on the left hand side, where there is a rectangle with the cat on, you can click the plus, and you can select another character. So I might want to, let's see if we can find a person, an animal I mean. So let's have a penguin. Click the tick. So I've now introduced another character. You'll notice down the bottom panel that there is no code there anymore. The sentences that I wrote on the screen are still there, but there is no code blocks. If I click back on the cat, you'll notice that the cat panel oblong has changed to orange, and here is the code for the cat. If I click on the penguin, and it turns orange, and you've got the little picture of the penguin. We're now doing things that apply to the penguin. So I can now add in movement blocks here that relate to just the penguin, and we can keep it up and down. You might make them go the other way and change that number again, so he's walking a little bit closer to Scratch. If I want my character to turn around and face Scratch, I need to click the block that's going that way, and then just tap it, and that'll turn him around, and I can just throw away that block. Okay, so now I've got my two characters. They're going to be doing some things, and I'm going to have this one saying hi as well. I'm going to put a block here where this one is going to start when the green flag is tapped. So as soon as it's tapped, this character will start doing their code. Scratch won't do anything because I've got a tap button, won't do anything until he's tapped. So let's just watch that. So now I have to tap on Scratch to make Scratch code execute. There you go. And of course you can see there that Scratch sort of ended up on top of the penguin, and that's something that would be adjusted. I just adjust the number of steps that Scratch takes. That's all for this part of the video. In parts 2 and 3, I'll look at how we can customize backgrounds, add add more scenes, use repeat blocks and sounds, and also look at how we can have multiple characters working together in a scene. Okay, that's all for now.